Good morning from Vietnam, Matt. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon joining our Inside Sharing Show and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, we want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. It is a true pleasure to be here with you, and I look forward to the conversation.
Matt, your brother came to our country already, but you has not come in here. So you have a new friend, a new family here await. So the next time if you decided to travel to this part of the world, please let us know. It would be delightful to take you around our city.
It is very kind of you to offer that up, and I'm excited to take you up on it at some point. Would love to come visit.
On behalf of our listener, it would be wonderful if you can do a little introductions about yourself and the works you are doing. Can you do it for us, please?
Absolutely. So I'm somebody who's very passionate about communication. I teach communication skills at Stanford's Graduate School of Business. I also write books. I have a new book out called Think Faster, Talk Smarter. And I host a podcast for Stanford's Business School that is all about communication. It's called Think Fast, Talk Smart. So everything I do in some way, shape, or form is related to communication. I think communication is critical to our success in our personal lives and our professional lives, and excited to share some of those thoughts with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you have a phenomenal career journey that you introduced to us less in 60 seconds. And that's not fair for our audience, okay? So we're gonna travel time together. We're gonna unveil the secret that leading to what you are doing today and why you love, in the field of communication. Is that okay if we travel time together, Matt?
All right, I got my seatbelt fastened.
When I was little, I loved to become an astronaut. Okay, and jumping in different planets seems so cool, but life didn't give me any chance to do the work that I love doing. So when you were little, Matt, what was your dream about yourself in the future though?
That's a great question. I had lots of dreams. I think the one that lasted the longest is I wanted to be a movie director. My goal was to make movies. I grew up in the era of Star Wars and Indiana Jones and really, really enjoyed action movies. I used to, with my friends in junior high school and even a little in high school, make movies. This was back in the day where it was on film and you actually had to splice the film together. And I even got into film school, and I made a strategic decision not to pursue film. Rather, I went another route just because I wanted to see other opportunities. And then I fell in love with the study of people. I studied psychology, and within the study of psychology, I became very interested in communication. And I went on to do graduate work in communication. I worked in the corporate world for a decade. I ran learning and development organizations for software companies. And then when the time was right, came back to my passion and started teaching communication skills everywhere from the high school level all the way up. I've graduated to teaching at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. So I've taught lots of different age groups, run a consulting practice to help working professionals. So the one through line in all of what I've done, it's about communication. When I was wanting to be a movie director, it was really communicating the stories that I felt were important. When I was working in high tech, it was about empowering others to have the skills they need to communicate their stories. And now as a teacher, as a writer, as a podcast host, it's really about giving people the tools they need to be successful in their communication.
All right, thanks for sharing. So I'm going to bring you back to the point when you said that you had strategically decided to not pursue it with the career in movie, right? So
sure.
What happened back then that you decided, okay, Matt's not gonna pursue further with movie director industry?
Well, so I am somebody who lives by a few mottos, a few directives. One is to never shut down opportunities. And I felt at the time that going into movie directing, although it was a passion of mine, really locked me into one way of being, one career, one set of people, because film school is very, very insular, right? You work with a cohort, you stay there. And so I saw other opportunities at the other university I was choosing between, and there were just more opportunities. So I tried to live by my motto, which is avoid shutting down opportunities when you can. So the big choice was to opt for more options rather than lock myself in. And I don't regret that decision for a moment. It was the right thing for me to do at that time.
Wow. So why psychology?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I have always been fascinated by how people work and what's important to them. Even as a little kid, I very much remember reflecting on why people do what they do. I had some pretty formative experiences when I was about 7 years old. My mother said we needed to have a garage sale. We needed to sell stuff from our house because we had too much lying around. My brother and I had too many toys and things. And my mother said, in order to advertise, we needed to spell incorrectly the name of our garage sale. So my mother instructed us to insert the letter B in the middle of the word garage. So you end up getting garbage. So while everybody else in the neighborhood was having their own garage sales, we were having a garbage sale. And we sold more stuff than any of them, which really led me to see that you can influence people's behavior through the language and words you use. So from a very young age, I began to see that psychology is important, communication is important. And I think that's what led me to really focus on the career I did and how I've tried to focus what it is I do in my life.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's very strategic decision made by your mother back then, right?
Well, absolutely. She definitely had some insight that was helpful, and my brother and I made a little bit more money than we expected. Let's just put it that way.
So how could you keep that curiosity and the interest on the field of communication that long without that long? That's it.
Well, so I would say I would actually reframe your question. How couldn't I? The more you study communication, the more you study psychology, the more you realize just how complex and interesting and curious all of this is. And so, the more I looked into it, the more fascinated I am. I am more curious and interested in communication today than I ever was. And I've been doing this work for a long time. So, to me, it just makes complete sense that we would be interested in it.
And then you worked in the corporate world for a decade, like you say, right?
I did.
And then you make another big move, and you move to pursue your dream. So back then, what message did you talk to yourself? You say, okay, I'm gonna leave all the comfort behind, like the salary, the compensations, everything behind to pursue for something new and strange. So share with us that feeling back then, though.
Well, it didn't feel that way. The way you're framing it to me was a natural calling. I've always been fascinated by communication. I've always loved teaching. My mother was a teacher. I was around teaching all the time. I actually started teaching some things when I was a teenager, so I knew I loved teaching. But I love teaching not only because it helps people, but because I'm incredibly curious, and teaching allows me to learn. So for me, it wasn't a big switch. I mean, the big switch here in the United States, teaching is as a profession is not always as respected as it is elsewhere. You're part of the world, etc. So the choice was: do I want to get off the crazy, high tech bandwagon and go do something I'm passionate about? And once I was convinced that was the right thing for me, there was no hard decision. I love teaching. I love what I do. I love helping people. I love learning. It all made sense. There was no second doubts at all.
So your first book came out in 2016, right? And what took you so long to write the first book, though?
So, I am not, writing is hard for me. Speaking is much easier for me. So writing books is not easy. It doesn't go quickly. My books are born out of need. I don't sit there saying I should write this book because I want the world to know these thoughts. I see it in my students and the people I coach, and that's what leads me to write the book. So the first book I wrote, Speaking Up Without Freaking Out, was all about how to help people feel more comfortable and confident speaking. Anxiety is a big deal for people who are speaking. And so there was a need. I saw it in my students. I had students leaving my classes after 3 months of studying with me saying, hey, the class was great. I learned so much. Once I feel less nervous, I look forward to putting all of this into practice. And I just felt so bad that they were having to, not apply the things they learned because they were still nervous. So the first book was born out of that need. And then the second book, which just came out, Think Faster, Talk Smarter, is all about how to speak spontaneously, speak in the moment, answering questions, giving feedback, making small talk. And again, that was born out of a need that my students were having and that I was seeing others have. So it's not that it takes me a long time. One, it's not a very enjoyable process for me. And two, there has to be a fundamental need that I want to address.
Beautiful, beautiful, and congratulations for the new release, Think Fast and Talk Smarter. It's been months in the market already, right? So tell us, why you named the book Think Faster and Talk Smarter?
Well, so I've been doing a podcast for almost 4 years now. It's been 4 years, called Think Fast, Talk Smart. It's all about communication. It's a global podcast. It has done very well. And so when I went to write the book, it made sense to connect the ideas from the podcast to the book. People already associate me with that name. So it's a big, mostly it's out of the idea of branding and helping people find the content, which hopefully will help them.
So who's the audience, target audience for your book though?
Anybody who has to speak in the moment, which means everyone. So if you have to give feedback, answer questions, introduce yourself, apologize, have technology that goes bad and then you have to explain it, anybody will benefit from a book that teaches you how to speak in the moment more confidently and comfortably.
Matt, a lot of people say take time to think before you speak, right? But your book is like think faster, okay? So how can we process our brain that we can think faster and respond without errors, though?
Great question, thank you. So when I say think faster, what I'm really talking about is what I call pattern recognition. It's understanding what's happening in the moment and being able to respond better. So the notion is like an athlete who trains and does lots of drills. So when they're in the game, they can respond appropriately, but do so very efficiently and quickly. Mm-hmm. So when you hear think faster, what it's really saying is notice the patterns that you've practiced, that you're familiar with, and then act on them. So think faster is all about pattern recognition. Talk smarter is all about making sure that we structure our messages in a way that can be really helpful and focused for people.
Since you're an expert in that area, in the communication area, can you teach us how can we recognize those patterns and think fast?
Yeah, so a lot of it has to do with mindset and approach. Many of us are so afraid of spontaneous speaking situations or communication situations in general that we just fixate on what's in front of us. We don't take the time to look at the context in which we're speaking, listen in a detailed way for the nuance. So a lot of it is just about observation and slowing down. So I know it sounds weird that the book is Think Faster, but it's really about being present in the moment and observing. So when you're at work, look around and see who is responding in what ways. Notice the patterns that are going on. Sometimes you'll like it, sometimes you'll think it's not as effective as it could be, but by training yourself to observe the patterns and then critically to reflect on them. Many of us in our communication are just so glad to have it over that we don't take time to think about what worked and what didn't work. So taking the time to reflect, to make adjustments, that's how we learn how to think faster and talk smarter.
Then if we can recognize the pattern, if we can connect in the dots, right? And then talking about it is not easy also. Now it's about talking smarter also. So from thinking to talking smarter, what step do we need to take for us to be able to do it effectively?
So there's a whole 6-step methodology I walk people through. You don't have to go through each step, but there is a logical ordering here. The first 4 steps have to do with mindset. We have to get our mindset right. Many of us avoid or dread spontaneous speaking. So the first thing we have to do is embrace it, see it as something that's beneficial. We have to attack and deal with anxiety that many of us feel. We have to remind ourselves that communication is all about connection, not perfection. Many of us want to do it right, and the desire to do it right gets in the way of us doing it well at all. So we need to manage anxiety. We need to remind ourselves that we have to focus on our audience and connecting instead of trying to get it right. We then have to see these situations as opportunities. Many of us feel threatened and retreat and make ourselves small instead of embracing and connecting. And then finally, we have to listen well. Listening is a critical component of effective speaking. And once we've mastered or worked on the mindset piece, we then can think about messaging. And messaging is really all about how do we structure our messages. It is not effective to just list information, to itemize things. Rather, you have to package it up in a way that's easy for your audience to digest. And then you have to make it focused and clear. You know, our attention is pulled in lots of different directions. And so we need to focus our messages so they're concise and clear. So by enacting those 6 steps, or any part of those 6 steps, you can actually become better at thinking faster and certainly better at talking smarter.
Thanks for sharing the 6 steps. I want to start with the embracing, because that is where we overcome the fear, right? A lot of people fear of speaking. Now, you just say that embracing it. Embracing is, what can we do to get out of that fear zone and start to embrace a conversation?
Well, so we have to first and foremost remind ourselves that whenever we communicate, we need to be in service of our audience. So our job is to be there for them. We often think of communication as just broadcasting information out, but it's more important to think about how people receive that information. So when we remind ourselves that it is the audience that matters, that changes our focus, and that change in focus helps us to be better at being present and making our message resonate. So it is critical to help ourselves focus on connection, to remind ourselves we need to be in service of our audience.
Beautiful. Matt, I'm not going to ask a question. It's not going to be fair for you, but I need to ask it anyway. So in the book, if you pick one chapter that you really, really like to share with our audience, what would that chapter be, and what is in that chapter?
That's a great question, because it's like asking me to pick my favorite child. I think all the chapters are important. Perhaps the most important is the epilogue, so the ending of the book. I tell the story of a former student of mine and how she was in a situation where she really had to think fast and talk smart, and was able to do so by employing several of these techniques. So when you write a book that's a methodology, it's very easy to get fixated on each step. And I think the epilogue does a really nice job of putting it all together. Her approach to managing her situation is different than others will be, but you can see how people can take different parts of the methodology to really help them. So if you said there's only one chapter you could read, I would say the epilogue gives a really good sense of what we're trying to accomplish in the book and how you can actually benefit from it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if we bring you back in time, okay, when you were young and on your way to teenage, do you ever think of one day you're gonna have impacts to the lives of millions of people around the world like this?
So my goal is to help everyone, to help anyone, so helping one person makes me very happy. Helping more people makes me happy. I did not believe that I would ever have the impact that I've been able to. I'm thrilled that I do. It is certainly a team effort. It's not just me, but I absolutely am humbled by the opportunity, and am hopeful that in doing the work that I do, others can help send and spread the work as well, such that more and more people learn to feel more comfortable and confident in all speaking, spontaneous or planned. So I am honored and humbled to have the opportunity that I do. I certainly never thought that it would be what it is, but I think it's the result of what we talked about earlier, when I think keeping open to opportunity, taking risks and saying yes, that's all led to some of the success.
Beautiful. I promised my speaking coach that I'm gonna ask a bizarre question for every conversation that I had encountered. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a bizarre question. Is that okay with you?
Sure. Depending on how bizarre it is, maybe I'll answer, maybe I won't.
Okay. So we just want to know how a day would be for a communication expert like you, if how's a normal day is. That's it.
My days are just like everybody else's days. And when I hear the word expert, I always feel awkward. Communication is something that you always have to continue developing. It's not something, there's no summit that you reach. So I am very much still actively working to become a better communicator. But, I have two teenage kids, lots of interesting learnings and conflict that comes from that. I have a loving wife who sometimes finds that I don't always practice what I teach. So I think people would recognize my days to be very similar to theirs. I do have, some moments of just amazing opportunity and experiences where I get to interview people or be interviewed by people. But really, my day looks pretty similar to everybody else's.
My wife and I, we're on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think, because we believe that the thinking, if we do it right, then we can take the right kind of actions and we can make positive change from there, right? And there's so many things that impact our ability to think these days that make our thinking capabilities diminishing. So we want to revert that direction. So every time that we got a chance to talk to great thinker around the world, we always ask this question, and I want to ask you the same question, Matt. How have you been improved and expand your ability to think?
How have I improved and expanded my ability to think?
Yes.
So I have been a martial artist for 40 years, a little
Wow.
over 40 years now. There were some breaks in there at certain times, but the martial arts have opened up my mind to learning a lot of things. I have learned through my study of the martial arts that there is always more to learn, and that curiosity and that drive has been rooted in that. I'll never forget when I earned my first black belt degree. My instructor came to me and said, "Congratulations, you've done very well. Now let's get started." And that was a very profound moment. I thought I had culminated something, and in a way I did, but it was really just the beginning. And as I've learned different styles, gotten more and more ranks, each rank is a recognition of what's happened, but it's also a doorway to what can still be. So I am somebody who's driven by curiosity and tenacity, and that's what helps me learn new things. And I also hold that everybody has something to teach, and I look forward to learning from as many people as possible. So I see every interaction as an opportunity to learn something about myself or about the world.
Beautiful. And you mentioned the word curiosity. That's a lot. That's a very powerful word. That a lot of people don't have that ability to be curious about how things go around them, right? So, can you share with us, how could you be curious a little longer like this?
I think you're right. I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to be as curious as they potentially could be. And curiosity is really a superpower. So how can people be more curious? I think it's about observing, and I think it's about caring. So just being quiet and still and seeing what's going on, and also giving yourself permission to ask questions and to really listen to the responses you get. I would challenge people to think about how they've learned, how they've grown, and I bet in doing that, people will see that being curious is what's really helped them do that. And so that those would be the ways that I would signify, or at least specify, building curiosity and maintaining curiosity.
Beautiful. I have two last questions before we end this conversation, so you can prepare for your event tonight. Okay. So
Thank you.
yeah. So the first question is about communication. It's about you to communicate with you. Okay. So if you are now come back into the garage sales, when you're 6 years old, and then and you talk to yourself back then, what would you tell your 6 years old version of Matt about you now?
I would say save all your Legos because they'll be worth a lot of money when you're older. But also, I would, it it took me a while to learn about the notion of opportunity and staying open to opportunity. And so I would try in whatever way I could to my 6-year-old self to explain this notion of try not to close off to opportunity, because if you stay open to it, I firmly believe good things happen and follow. So that would be the advice that I would give my younger self is stay open to opportunity, because you never know where it will take you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks a lot for sharing that one. That very beautiful message that Matt now talked to. He's 6 years old. It would take a little more explanation for the 6 years old of Matt to understand, but you know it's a powerful message for him to embrace, you know, and carry on in life, right? So the last question is about the future. So we traveled the past, we talked about the present already, but we yet talk about the future. So is there anything exciting that you are working on, you want to share with me and the audience, that we can congratulate you and celebrate with you in advance?
Yes, so I'm investing a lot of my time and my resources into the podcast. Think Fast, Talk Smart. It's been a wonderful ride and journey. Where we're really investing our effort is in AI and seeing how we can help people better understand AI and leverage AI to get information to people. And also, we're really investing a lot of time and energy to help people who are using our podcast not just to learn how to communicate better, but to also learn how to speak English better. And we already have some English language learning content, and we're looking forward to adding even more. So that's where I'm investing a lot of my time, and I'm really excited about the things we have planned and what's coming in the future.
Beautiful, beautiful. Matt, thanks a lot for doing amazing thing, helping people to get better at communication. Communicating is a way for us to share our ideas, share our thoughts, and connect with one another, right? And then you're helping us to really be better human. And thanks for doing that. Thanks for keeping the passions and keep sharing your insights, so that you know, each of us can learn from you and can grow from there. On behalf of the listeners, we want to say thank you and hope one day that we'll be able to see you, your wife, and your two children in person. That would be fantastic, and I really look forward to it.
I do as well. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the questions.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful event tonight, okay? Tell people what we say hello from Vietnam too.
I will. I'll certainly let them know.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.